we're going live.
Okay.
The broadcast.
Cool.
Here we go. We have people coming in. I see some names of certified brain pop educators, which is always nice.
I'm not seeing anybody. Is it just because we're the hosts?
Yeah, I think they show up under participants at the bottom.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Oh, look at that.
Got a couple of brain poppers.
Nice.
Great, so we're going to begin in about a minute just to give some people time to enter our Zoom room, get settled. You might have noticed that we don't have our chat for this webinar. Those of you who've been coming to our other webinars normally take this time to introduce yourselves in the chat. For the purpose of this webinar, we've collected student questions ahead of time, and we do have a Q&A for teachers to submit questions, and we'll have a brain popper manning that Q&A. So you will be able to communicate with us. And then we have an eval at the end if there was a question that wasn't answered or there's more that you want to see. Don't worry, you will be heard. All right, let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Hi, Mike. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
Thanks so much for joining us. So we're going to be doing a live Q&A with Mike. And many people know you as the voice of Tim. There's so much more that you do at BrainPop. Can you tell us a little bit about just kind of how you got started, what you do now? That we have.
Wow. Well, I've been with the company for like 21 years, so I've kind of done everything. But I started out as the first animator on the project, and I created Tim and Moby, and used my own voice for Tim. Through that, I made a lot of the first movies and wrote some of them, and then we started to add more people, a bigger team, and they needed someone to kind of help guide them through the process of making more brain pop stuff. So I kind of became an art director and then a creative director. And that was kind of my my role for a long time. A couple of years ago, I got bumped up to chief creative officer, which is a really fancy way of saying creative director. So I now basically manage the all the creative teams, the editorial, the animation, the design teams, and help them make the best brain pop stuff we can.
Awesome. So one of the newer creations from those teams is our distance learning topic. This was launched about a month ago, a couple of weeks ago. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about where this came from, how did it come together, what was involved with the making of it?
Sure. I mean, I think we saw a need with, all of us working, going to school from home. We're all working from home. I'm in my home right now. My entire team is away. And I think we have a lot of empathy for all the kids and teachers who are kind of stuck out there in their own homes, trying to connect with each other, trying to keep learning going and keep all that sort of firing and happening. So what we wanted to do was make a quick little movie about how you as a student might be better at be good at being a distance learner. So there's a lot of I think we reached out to a lot of teachers, a lot of our CBE community, and teachers that are on staff, and just teachers that we know and are friends with, and just try to get as many tips as we could to help everybody really cope with this new normal.
Are there any sort of major takeaways that you want to share with our viewers who are students who are right now going through the transition of being in the classroom to now doing everything through remote and distance learning?
Sure. I mean, I think a couple of big takeaways are, right in the movie. I'm sure you've all seen it. If you haven't seen it, you probably will at some point. But I think like the one of the basic ideas is that, like, just set yourself a routine. Make sure that when you're that you're not staying up super late, that you're getting up at a normal time, that you're, getting enough to eat, getting enough rest, that when you are ready to sit down at your desk to open your computer or laptop or iPad or tablet, that you're just sort of ready and focused and ready to go. That's pretty important. And I think, like, there's another great takeaway from the movie about making sure that you're managing your time really well, like keeping, that you're going to get lessons and you're going to get assignments from so many different places. You're going to have your class management systems, whether it's Google Classroom or Clever or anything. You're going to have you'll have assignments coming in through email. You'll have assignments being given verbally by your teachers. So just make sure that you're taking all of those assignments and putting them in like one good place that you trust. And I think for me, the big takeaway, and I think this applies to students, it applies to teachers, and I think it applies to all of us working at home, is give yourself a break. Like, this is not going to work if we try to make everything exactly right and perfect the first time around. Just be flexible and give yourself a chance to make mistakes. And if things don't go right, it'll be okay. We just got to kind of work through this together.
I think we could all, teachers and students alike, I'm sure that resonated with everyone. All right, let's dive into some of the student questions. So this actually piggybacks off of what you were saying earlier. Gabrielle in Mrs. Travis's 6th grade class wants to know, what is the best way to focus? And you mentioned some strategies earlier. I was wondering if you have any sort of like personal anecdotes on how you best focus, or specific things you want to draw from the distance learning movie to answer this question.
Sure. I mean, so here's the thing about me. I actually work from home all the time. The Brain Pop office is in New York, and I live elsewhere, and it's and I'm always home. I'm always, I've got this red curtain behind me, and this is my setup. So what I do, what one thing that I do, I think that is actually, like, we say it in the movie as well, is that I have like my own space for working. And this is like, it doesn't have to be a big giant desk. You don't have to have a red curtain behind you. As long as you have your own little corner, that's your space that you go to do work, that's super helpful. Having that thing where because, like, you're home and you're used to like playing with your pets or your siblings or watching TV or doing other stuff. You kind of need your own personal space to, like, just call your workspace. Another thing I like to do sometimes when I'm not in meetings is listen to music. There's certain kind of music that I like that, like, helps me kind of focus and kind of like zero in on stuff that's like usually like not a lot of like words or yelling or anything like that. I've actually find the Minecraft soundtrack works really well for focusing. I don't know if you know the music from that thing, but it's very calm and peaceful, and it sort of floats in the background, and you just kind of like, it's easy to kind of focus and to tune other things out while you're doing it. And I think the most important thing about being able to focus is to really try to connect with what you're doing. Like, to look at, if you're doing any kind of schoolwork or anything that you're doing, you got to think very deeply about how it relates to you, what you appreciate about it. And I find that when you start to, like, really enjoy what you're doing, that's when really the real focus kicks in.
Awesome. Sometimes we have homework, though. And it might not be a subject that, it might not be a favorite subject, but still something that we need to do. So Kayla, sorry, in 7th grade, also in Miss Travis's class, wants to know, why do we need homework?
When you started saying this, I was thinking, why do we need homework? Gosh, I feel like we could do without it. But you know what? Like, one thing that's really important about learning is that, like, it's not just a process of hearing something. Like, when you hear an idea or a fact, it comes into your brain and it kind of sits there, and you might like toss it around and be like, okay, interesting. But when you really start to learn it, when you really internalize it, is when you have a chance to use it. You have a chance to actually, like, engage with it and make, kind of make it your own. That's why, like, on Brain Pop, we have our movies where that guy Tim talks to you and tells you stuff, which is great. I mean, that's like, it's fun, and I hope we do a good job explaining ideas. But until you start to use those ideas,
Mhm.
they're still just something that Tim told you, something that you heard. That's why we, have like the like simpler features like the quiz and challenge, where you can kind of like help to recall some of these ideas, these facts, and get them across. And then there's the other features we have, like make a movie and make a map, where you really have to think about these ideas that you learn and engage with them, and kind of build your own ideas about how they all work together. So long story short, too late. That's why we have homework.
Thanks. Um, and so you mentioned, we have all these additional sort of tools and features
Mhm.
and the movie. Where do the ideas come from? So we have one question here from Cortland in 4th grade. How do you receive your questions to talk about in your movies?
Okay. So we do get letters from kids. Kids will write in and ask questions. We get letters from teachers. Um, we also, like, we sort of like sometimes ask ourselves questions about, like, what could we cover in school? What could we cover in a brain pop topic
Mhm.
that would really help teachers and kids in school? Um, there's a, and then we look at the curriculum, we look at the things that, like, kids are supposed to be learning in a certain grade, and we say, okay, well, how do we fill these gaps? So there's actually a lot of different ways where we get the ideas from. The when we come up with a topic and, like, kind of shape it, we do often use real letters from real kids. So another
Well,
complicated
how,
answer to a simple question, but yeah.
if someone wanted to send in the letter, how would they go
Okay.
about doing that? Would they just
You
do
know
it
what? There's a
in
I am not sure. I think oh, you know what? There's a couple of ways we get letters. They tend to come through our email account. Like, it's just info@brainpop.com. If you want to write to that, that'll get to our editorial team, and we read every submission, and we'll look it over and try to see if we can make a movie out of it.
Awesome. Well, there you go, Cortland. I hope that answered your question. Um, Also, talking about movies, I imagine that this takes a lot of work producing something that goes up on our site.
Hmm.
Thomas D in 3rd grade wants to know, how many times do you have to revise a video until you can post it?
That's a great question. So you all, when you're students, you might write an essay or a story, or even like just a quick paragraph, um, and you might just get your ideas out and you put it all out there, and it feels done. You're like, great, done. And your teacher's like, well, I want you to make another draft of that. And you're like, I don't want to. It's perfect. It's fine. But honestly, the best way to make your work better is to redo it and redo it and rewrite it, and, like, let other people read it, take comments from other people, and really try to improve it. And I do that with everything I write, whether it's an email or a Slack message to to large company communications that I have to send out, because your first ideas are often very good, but they're not usually quite as honed in to where they need to be. Brain pop movies are just the same way. So when we write a brain pop movie, a lot of times we'll have some ideas in there that, like, maybe don't help the tell the story as best they could. So sometimes we'll take things out. Other times we'll realize, well, you know what, we really need to mention this part, so we'll add something in. Brain pop movies go through probably, I'd say, dozens of revisions before they become final. And even after we publish them, even after I've read them out loud into this microphone, this very microphone, and we publish them on the site, for years and years afterwards, we're constantly making revisions to movies, because nothing's ever perfect. So we just got to keep kind of chasing that. So it's a lot of work. You're right.
Yeah. Thomas has a follow-up question.
Sweet.
Would you have an estimate on how many times you revise a movie until you've posted it?
I'd say a bazillion, Thomas. It's like a bazillion.
Fair number.
Yeah. Between writing and animation, there's so many changes, and it's really a collaborative process. So it's a lot.
Awesome. All right, let's circle back to our distance learning movie.
Cool.
You mentioned that there are additional resources to help you, and you also mentioned setting a routine.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to point out that the distance learning movie also has, actually, if you go over here, um, if you click on the additional tools and features on the side, you will find that there is a worksheet, and the worksheet has a planner. So you can actually fill in your classes and what you want to work on, so that you can either send that to your teacher, or if you just want to prep within BrainPop, that is there.
That's super helpful. We have one on the refrigerator for my kids.
You do? That's
Yep.
awesome. And I thought it'd be fun because I know, sometimes you work on things and then you work on other things. And it's always fun to go back and revisit some of the things that you worked on.
Okay.
So we're going to do a little quiz. We're going to quiz
Oh no.
on the distance learning.
Yeah.
And for those
Right.
of you who are at home, you can follow along and see if you can get the answer. So this is actually from our challenge.
Oh.
So for those of you who don't know, we've got quizzes and we've got challenges. So the quizzes are questions that are multiple choice, and the challenges are a little bit different. There's multiple answers, sometimes fill in the blanks and diagrams. So this one has multiple answers.
Mm-hmm.
Which device helps students access online lessons? Choose more than one answer.
So is it me? Am I doing this now? Oh, okay. Okay, fine. So the first one's a laptop computer. Obviously, that helps you access online lessons. I checked that.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have a tablet there. That's, I would say that also probably true. The phone, yes, absolutely. That thing at the bottom is, I believe, an antique camera. Is that correct?
Correct.
Does that help you access online lessons? I think sometimes you need to take a picture of a lesson to send it in, but I'm not sure that I would say that helps you access online lessons. The alarm clock, kind of tricky because you can't access online lessons if you're not awake. But I would say, let's say no. I'm going to say no for that one. I think that's so I'd say like the laptop, the tablet, and the phone, yes. Everything else, no.
So you were correct. The laptop,
Sweet.
the tablet, and the phone are all correct.
Okay.
The alarm clock actually is also correct because, like you said earlier, you do need to set a routine, wake up on time,
Okay.
because you need to be awake.
Okay. So I should have gone with my first impulse then.
The camera, you're right, is not necessary. And
Okay.
I mean, I guess if you did have to take pictures of your homework, you could maybe use a phone or tablet.
It's true, yeah.
Because you might have to wait a little while. Digital antique camera.
I'm going to be forgiving of myself. I'm going to say it's okay. It's all right. Yeah.
Unless you're doing a photography course. So
Mhm.
actually, maybe we can argue they're all right in some way. All right, next question. This is from our distance learning. This is not multiple answer. This is there's one right answer here.
Okay.
So what is digital etiquette? Is it A, learning new skills on the internet? B, managing your device's camera and microphone? C, treating people with respect online? Or D, communicating more casually online than in person?
Well, I know sometimes people do communicate more casually online than in person. But having watched the Digital Etiquette movie, I would say that like digital etiquette is C, treating people with respect online.
That's correct.
Yay.
Yay. Yeah. So, we think about treating people with respect when we're in school. And now we have virtual school and we're online and we're engaging with our teachers and our classmates online. And so digital etiquette is something to keep in mind and consider.
Treating people with respect everywhere is super important. That's like job one. But and now we're all online all the time. It is now also job one. Great.
Yes, exactly. All right, last question. What is the best approach for a productive school day? Is it A, working until you're tired, skipping snacks to fit in more studying?
Mm-hmm.
B, set up a schedule, slotting in classes and short breaks? C, wait until parents can help you to complete assignments? Or D, do your work whenever you feel like it?
All right, so there's no way in heck I'm skipping snacks. And then let's see, wait till your parents can help you to complete assignments. A lot of your parents may still be working. They got their own stuff to deal with. And I think like one of the wonderful things about this distance learning is that it's going to help all of us get a little bit better at managing our own time. So I'm not going to say that. Do your work whenever you feel like it. I wish that were the case, but sometimes it's better to block in some time to do it. I would say B, set up a schedule, slotting in classes and short breaks and snacks, lots of snacks.
correct. Yay. Yes, we'll morph the two answers together. So
I'm gonna edit that as soon as we're off. I'm
Yeah.
gonna add Max to that.
Just, yeah, ping the team and say, I think we need a little bit of a change there. I definitely have really been enjoying my at-home snacks. Correct.
Yay.
That is correct. Whew. All right. So we are going to get back to our student Q&A. But I do want to, before we move on, talk a little bit about this because it's new. It's new news. Can you tell us a little bit about what this is?
Sure. Well, so we've been talking about doing a news feature for a while where we might do something that's a little less sort of like what we call evergreen, like a movie about, say, the water cycle. The water cycle is really not going to change throughout our lifetimes. So we can make a movie about that and expect that it's going to be fine for a while. But there's so much happening right now, and there's so much happening in the world, and it's really like it's a science story. Like it's a story about like how, these little viruses that are everywhere and how we can beat them, and how we need to like make sure that we're all being careful and washing our hands all the time, which I hope you all are. And so we decided like this is the perfect time to like start doing topics that are more timely, that maybe are just like more up to the minute. So this is very specific. It's about how soap works. Tim is the news anchor, but Rita is the real host in here. I don't know if you all know Rita, but maybe are we all going to watch this thing now?
We are going to
part of it. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, we're going to watch a part of it. And I also really like Tim's new look.
Yeah.
Very professional there.
His hair's really like kind of slicked down there. It's good.
All right, let's take a look at this.
Tan suit. Can I please have the wipes? Who's got the wipes? There's schmutz on my chair. Hello, and welcome back to Homeroom News. Our top story today is washing your hands with soap. 10 out of 10 doctors recommend it, and not just because dirty hands are gross. Soap kills germs, including this little menace, the new coronavirus. Here to explain just how soap works is our science reporter, Rita.
Thanks, Tim. Great to be here.
It's funny. Before I read it off the cue card, I didn't know soap killed germs. I thought it just kind of washed them away.
Well, you're not entirely wrong. Soap is a surfactant. It makes surfaces slip.
Oops, I paused it there because I wanted to leave it at a cliffhanger because I wanted to encourage people to go and watch it themselves. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of, or I wanted to give our viewers a little bit of an understanding of what this is and how it's different from our Brain Pop movies, because it's focused on current events. And this one actually was the most recent, wasn't it?
Yep, most recent. That's Taya doing Rita's voice. She's our UX researcher and UX writer. She does a great job.
I look forward to seeing more of Rita. And Rita's actually, if you go into our distance learning movie, you'll hear from Rita there as well. Mm-hmm. So I love, seeing all the new. We've also got Nat and Cassie. Mm-hmm. So for those of you who haven't watched movies yet with them in them, you might see them the next time you're on Brain Pop when you're doing your distance learning homework. All right, so we are going to go back to answering some more questions. You mentioned earlier that you'd been at Brain Pop for over 20 years now, right? Yeah. That was actually a question from a 7th grader in Mrs. Travis's class. How many years have you been doing this? So has it been exactly 20?
It's been 21 actually in April. We started. I started a long time ago. It was in 1999 that we started. I got together with a doctor named Dr. Avram Kadar, mm-hmm. who is a pediatric immunologist, and his medical practice was that he basically he saw his patients were kids with asthma, and he was trying to come up with some kind of program to help explain to kids what's happening in their bodies when they have an asthma attack. So he and I worked together on some early content about that, or early movies, and it was kind of a game. It was a CD-ROM thing. I don't know. It was a long time ago, but so we worked together with on that. This was just intended for his doctor's office, just to be played on a computer, sitting in his office there. And we finished it. We thought, well, this is good. We're kind of good at this. Why don't we start making some more movies about other things? So we made some movies about cells and about the skeleton, because he's a doctor and is very into all that stuff. We did some stuff about the immune system. And I was always into science, so we started doing things about different planets and the Earth and things along those lines. And so we started building this library of movies, and we're able to launch in 1999 with about 30 movies and some features to go along with them. And yeah, started there. That's how Brain Pop got started. And now we're like over 1,000 movies if you count Brain Pop and Junior and ELL. And yeah, it's been a long, strange trip.
That's crazy. Here's a timeline from our website. So if you go to about.brainpop.com/our company. So this is where you started in 1999.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how it's morphed. So we had Brain Pop Junior. We got the debut of Annie, who we hopefully will hear from soon. Both Annie and Karina, who voice Annie. Fingers crossed we can get viewers a very similar segment. And then we have our advisors at Brain Pop. But if we go through more the timeline, we start to see just like how we've developed over time. Like, you were talking earlier about those additional tools and features. And there's so many of them that have launched, I would say, over the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And so we've got some questions here from Owen Perez in 6th grade. Owen wants to know, what was your first impression of Brain Pop?
My first impression of Brain Pop. I'm not like when I first met Dr. Kadar, I mean, I was like, this guy's a mad genius. He's great. And we started Brain Pop together. So my first impression of Brain Pop is like, I think I helped shape it, I guess. But it does remind me of some other, like, I don't know, like the idea of explaining stuff to kids has always been with me, and it's always been something that I really enjoyed and appreciated. I used to watch Cosmos with Carl Sagan with my dad when I was little, and like I always like just loved hearing all these big ideas made easy to understand. So, and I've always had, like, I think, been blessed with great teachers as well, like who were able to like take these very big and complicated ideas and serve them up to kids in such a way that like they're easy to understand, they're easy to kind of like relate to, and with some humor and some joy, because I don't know, the world's pretty amazing, and I think it's exciting to be able to engage with it so directly. So yeah. I mean, that's not really answering the question, but it's like, it is about, I think it's about my relationship to the ideas of Brain Pop.
Sounds like there's a lot of alignment there in terms of like how you viewed the world and wanted to be in a space to educate, and sort of what the philosophies and ideas and approaches are.
I hope so. And I think like the one piece that came later, I think, is when I sort of realized that when kids are curious about something, there's like nothing you can do to stop them from learning everything they want to about, they can about that thing. And it's that curiosity that when you mix it with this with creativity, with where you have like teach a kid something and then give that kid a chance to make something of her own out of it, then that's when real learning really, like, it just explodes. And there's I try to we try to shape Brain Pop in such a way that it helps that connection, that loop, kind of go around and around and around to make better and better and smarter kids.
Avery in 3rd grade has a question. How do you make Brain Pop movies? I was wondering if you can tell us a little bit about just like the teams that are involved and what the process is like from that letter, that first letter that you get, to what we see on Brain Pop.
So it starts with the editorial team, and they will do what we call a pitch for a movie. Like, just here's an idea. Like, it's not even an outline. It's just this idea that, like, maybe Nat and Moby are at coding camp and they're doing something like that, or Tim and Moby are they're planting a garden, and we want to talk about like things like square feet and how to calculate area. So it's an idea like that. A lot of times it comes from a kid's question, comes from the curriculum, comes from teachers. Then that idea gets developed out by the editorial team. oftentimes becoming an outline, becoming a script, a draft of a script, and then it gets passed back and forth a lot. A lot of people read it. A lot of people make sure they're like looking at it, making sure that it's just right. We pare it down. Once the script is ready to go, kind of splits off, and one side goes to the animation team, who starts writing a storyboard. And a storyboard is like, it looks like a comic book basically of what the movie will eventually look like. And it comes to me, and then I start recording the audio, or one of the other voice actors, and they'll record the audio as well. Once we have the animation, or the storyboard done, they start working on like a kind of a rough. We call it an animatic. It's basically like the movie, but with no animation in it. So it's just like the different scenes all blocked out. And the reason we do these different steps is to give everybody a chance to look at it, see like, is this the right way to tell the story? Is this the right way to explain this idea? And then finally, the animation gets going. And that's when you have things getting thrown up in the air, and there's like, people moving around and walking and talking and all that sort of thing. Also, while this is all happening, we have the whole features team that is, spending all their time working on the quizzes and the challenges and the prompts for Make a Movie, and the different vocabulary words for the vocabulary feature, and also for Make a Map. And so that's all happening at the same time. At the very end, it goes to the publishing team, and they take all that stuff and they just shove it up on the website, and it's like magic. It's not magic. It's a lot of work actually. But that's basically how that happens. Then we announce it to the company. Everybody watches it. People find mistakes, and we start fixing it. It kind of keeps going. That's it. Yeah.
That's how it should be with anything that you do. Like you said earlier, there's drafts and then iterations. Just like I'm sure some of you who are doing your homework right now, there's probably going to be a first draft of something you submit, and then edits in the second one. We've got some questions in the Q&A.
Cool.
Dylan has questions about COVID-19. And I wanted to let Dylan know that we have a movie for that. It was just, I think, like a couple of months ago now that we launched that. So Dylan, if you are on BrainPop, you can find that movie, and hopefully it answers your questions. And then we also have, Devante wants to know, why do we have BrainPop and BrainPop Junior? How did we come up with that idea?
So BrainPop, we started making, and we figured it's like, maybe grades 3 through 8 can use this kind of stuff. And that's like, I think as you go through school, you learn different things in different years. May not feel like it because it's all you, and you remember, last year when you were in second grade and now third grade, it's like, feels like more of the same. But really what's happening is your teachers are teaching you what you need to know when you need to know it. And BrainPop Junior is made for K through 3. And that was started by our chief product officer, Karina, who also does the voice of Annie. And hopefully, you get to meet her. She's amazing. And she realized that she could make a product very specifically for these grades and the things they had to learn. Because when you first go to school, there's all this stuff you need to know that, like, you probably, if you're a little older, take for granted, like, counting to 100, or washing your hands, or learning to sit in circle time. These sorts of things like are new to kids who are in kindergarten. Not so new to you as older kids, but so we decided, like, it actually makes sense to have a separate product for that.
Thank you. Hopefully that answers your question, Devante. And I thought I would actually, you were talking about storyboarding earlier, when you were talking about the process of creating a BrainPop movie. And we also have Make a Movie on BrainPop, where students can make their own movie, and they can also storyboard. So if you go, or if your teacher goes to educators.brainpop.com, you can create, you were saying earlier, it looked like a comic strip. So this is what Mike was describing. I just wanted to show everyone a visual of what a storyboard looks like. And so the BrainPop movie started off with something like this, you were saying.
Very similar.
Very cool.
Yep.
Awesome. And I also wanted to talk about Moby a little bit, because I don't know if everyone knows Moby's origin story, but you do very well. So I was wondering if you could share that with us.
It's origin story. You mean like as a character, as a Okay, well, so I mean, I just
Where did Moby
okay, so all right. So when I made the first movie, I think it was cells or skeleton. I kind of made them both together, so it's kind of hard to tell. The very first draft I had just Tim, just a person explaining the stuff. And it felt kind of weird just to have a single person standing there doing this monologue about anything. It just sort of felt like there needed to be another person there. And I tried maybe, well, I thought, well, I'll add another character. I tried to do other voices. Turns out I can only do Tim. I don't have other voices in me. Um, and then I started thinking about like movies that I remember from my childhood, like Star Wars. Anyone seen Star Wars? Little independent film. But there's the two droids, R2 and 3PO, right? And you have two characters. You can only really understand one of them, but if you listen to them talk, and the next time you watch this, try to understand what R2 is saying, and you can understand him because you understand what 3PO is saying. So I figured like, okay, you know what? I'll just have this other character, this robot, just beep. And so that's how Moby got started. That's how I started using him. And now, you know, he's gotten a lot of like new sort of characteristics. He's very mischievous and he can be kind of silly. He can be kind of dangerous sometimes. But like, I think he's a good foil for Tim, who's a little bit more reserved, I think.
In Moby, we have a game called Meaning a Beep because Moby
Mhm.
doesn't use words. Moby beeps, but is still communicating just the same. So viewers can use their inferencing skills to
That's such a
try
fun game.
to try to guess what Moby is saying.
So this is
And
this is my first sketches of Moby that I drew. This is in our founder's office, I believe, Dr. Kadar's office.
mhm,
It's on the back of my resume.
yep. So if we look real close, for those of you who are
Mhm.
watching, you can see there's some text over there. That
Yep.
is Mike's resume.
It talks about how I used to be a cook at Pizza Hut and I used to work at the Frame Shack making frames.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, sort of, I guess. Also, that I have a degree in fine arts, which I, you know, not there's that. I used to be I was in sculpture, so
Do you have any recollection of like what Moby was doing here back in 1999?
I don't know what he's doing there. I was just kind of doodling. I thought maybe like he'd have like smokestacks on his back that he'd be like steam powered or something. I'm glad I didn't do that. I just kind of started sketching stuff there. Although, like, I think if I remember this right, like I kind of had his face in my head, like all ready to go with the dashed line and the big googly eyes, and I just kind of wanted him to be simple and kind of goofy, so that he'd be like sort of friendly, but also like a little weird, and like you kind of don't know what he's thinking. I don't know. Yeah,
And here we are now.
there we go.
We never have. And for those of you who are watching who doodle on your own, you never know where your doodles can end up or what your doodles can turn into.
Just keep doodling. It's important. Yeah, it's how I think, really. Like I need to have a, you know, piece of paper in front of me to actually like think out ideas.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We've also got a question from Erin in kindergarten.
Oh, hello.
Erin, we have got a real range today. We've got kindergarten
Yeah.
to 7th grade.
Whoa.
Erin wants to know, do a lot of people recognize your voice when you go out?
Oh, almost never.
Really?
Yeah, no, that's, in fact, I'm gonna say never. I think there's one point, at one point, a friend of mine said to her kid, like, do you recognize his voice? And the kid was like, no, yes, maybe, I don't know. So yeah, no, I think no. I think yeah. People aren't expecting to see a cartoon character walking around. So
This is
yeah,
fair.
no. Yeah.
This is true.
Mm.
And we'll end with this final question. Because we've been talking a little bit about just like your journey over the past 20 years. And CR in 6th grade wants to know, and you talked about this a little earlier. So what motivated you to want to work with Dr. Kadar and kind of build the roots or build a foundation of Brain Pop? And then why are you still here 20 years later?
I mean, I get up in the morning every day, sometimes very early. And I just am so excited to come to work because like I get to make cartoons. I get to voice a cartoon character. But like, I mean, that's all great and stuff. But I think like it's sort of like I feel a really strong personal connection to what I do. Like what, explaining stuff to kids. Like when I was little, I had a hard time in school. It was I did not understand every idea that was thrown at me, and sometimes those ideas were because I was just reading out of a textbook and I wasn't quite getting it, and then there was nothing else to turn to kind of figure it out. And I sort of feel like, well, if I can help kids a little bit in understanding some of these ideas and help them get on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, then that's a pretty good way to live your life, I think. Yeah, that's, I mean, I don't think about it much because it's just sort of like built into like everything we do. I mean, and just the chance to work with such a creative team, all the editors and writers and animators and artists and designers that I work with on my team, and also the people on the product team and in the research arms of this thing. They're all so creative, and everybody cares so much about everything we do. And our educators team, Bria, yeah. I mean, everybody cares so much about what we do that when you come to work, it's infectious and you get excited about like just being able to do some good in the world. So that's what I like about it. Yeah.
I think that's a really good place to kind of wrap up today. And hopefully we get to hear from our viewers some more, maybe meet you again and follow
Cool.
up with some of the questions. And I just wanted to thank you so much for, joining us this, I guess, where you are, it's not afternoon, is it?
No, it's still morning.
It's still
But
morning.
it was an honor and a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Priya. I really appreciate your and everyone's questions. All of you out there, thank you so much for coming. It's nice to see people in the chat. My sister is here. So yeah, it's I'm it's an honor to be on this chat with y'all. Thank you.
Awesome. And we'll hopefully see you soon. Thanks for coming. And
Sure.
just we'll start
How does this
wrapping up now.
okay, how does this work? Do I just hang up? What do we
Yeah, we're just gonna say one final bye and then
Bye everybody.
thanks for coming, everyone. Bye.